Well, it looks like our greatest nightmares have come true because unfortunately, it's going to be the Chiefs and the Eagles in the Super Bowl again. And I guess I'll do a little bit more analysis maybe on some points throughout this next couple weeks until the Super Bowl actually happens. But I mean, at least for now, it's just like it's all the same stuff, really. I don't know if I necessarily have any, it's unfortunate what's going to happen with Josh Allen, really. Like, I just think the Bills went through 20 years of Brady and now they're going through 10 years of Mahomes. It's really not, it's unfortunate for the Bills for sure. Um, but yeah, like I said, I mean, there's probably more analysis that's going to happen later on, just because I'm recording after the game. So the game's just really ended. And I don't know. I don't think necessarily any of my opinions on the players that are playing in the game have ended. I still think that 2018 Prism football is the best product, modern football product could be probably ever. I still, see Mahomes, and he's obviously going to be going down as one of the greats. And I don't know if he'll ever have a stretch like Brady where he doesn't win any Super Bowls. Like it's just like how can you bet against him when every single year he just doesn't like lose? Like I don't know. It's very I don't know. It's unfortunate because it's like I like the Bills and I have family members who are Bills fans and I wish that the Bills could have gone to the Super Bowl. I think that would have been super fun and super awesome for them. I think the a Bills Eagles Super Bowl would have been a very funny group of fans that are like so diehard for their team that like I don't know. I think both of those would have been funny. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see how much coverage we have on the show because, like I said, I just don't like. Not much has necessarily changed really since the last time that they played in the Super Bowl. I mean, I guess I hope that the Eagles win, but I hoped that there was going to be Commanders and Bills, and neither of those teams won. So I don't know. I mean, it will probably be the Chiefs again, and that will just add to Mahomes' legacy, which I guess is in theory is fine because, like I said, I'm a Brady guy, so I'm not going to sit here and say, oh, I don't like people that win a lot of Super Bowls, uh, but whatever. So I guess that's like obviously the big news story. And obviously you can tell that I'm a little deflated, no pun intended, talking about Brady, but I'm a little deflated here that it is just going to be, I don't know. I mean, hopefully it's a good game, I guess, but like even the last game, it was good. And then the Chiefs won because there was a flag. Like, I don't know what's going to happen here. So whatever. The other story that I want to talk about that I don't think I covered on last week's podcast. There may have been an episode where I covered it, but the one of one Paul Skeens has been pulled, graded, and is being auctioned by Fanatics Collects. The reaction to this card has been very interesting. I don't think anyone saw this necessarily because I don't get like a ton of engagement on Twitter. But on Friday night, I had tweeted out some like little snarky thing about because the thing that was really sort of odd, and I think on one hand, I think that this could have been a straw man argument, but on the other hand, I'm like, I know I saw people that said this. People were upset that Tops, for whatever reason, didn't post any pictures of the kid with the card. And like because they have been very up front and they post pictures of people with cards all the time. Now, I think that people are I don't know. I think people are overreacting a little bit if I'm going to be completely honest because I think on one hand, yeah, Tops has in their social media, they have posted pictures of people with cards, but not like $1 million cards. Like I think people are looking at this from one angle, and I think I personally could be looking at it from one direction or one angle also, and just saying like, I'm not a parent. I don't have any kids. I'm a 32-year-old that doesn't have kids, obviously. So like I don't know necessarily what's going through the mind of a parent who just had their 11-year-old pull the card that is like the most viral card on the internet that's probably worth millions of dollars, which if I am them, I am selling the card. I'm surprised also that this is not the reaction that people are thinking. People, sure, I understand getting some of the stuff from the pirates. Um, I understand that the experiences would be great, but $1 million, I mean, a million, like this card could sell for $2 million. Like it's probably more like a million, but if it goes for 2 million, I wouldn't be surprised. This is life changing money for not just an 11-year-old, for the family of that 11-year-old. Now, I hope that, I hope this is an interesting circumstance where I hope that because I'm not going to sit here and say that parents are not irresponsible and would not spend this money. I hope that there is something that's set up. I don't know if Fanatics would do this, probably not, but I'm hoping that there's something set up where it's like X amount is going into some sort of fund, college fund, index fund, something for this kid when he turns 18, so that way he has the decision what to do with the money. Because he is apparently, based on the story, he is the one that pulled this card. So I'm just surprised on one hand, like sometimes, and I think also I'm sure that the people who maybe had this take are like, as soon as people push back, I'm hoping they were probably like, oh, wait, maybe maybe I'm incorrect here. Like, because again, because it's the biggest card, I think that there will always be some sort of conspiracy. There always will be some sort of skepticism on the way if they're doing it a little bit different than normal, if they're doing it a little bit different than people expected. Um, people are pointing out that the card was redeemed and then there was some post that went up that still included that the Paul Skeens card was available, and that feels like it's pretty that thing feels like it's pretty easy to explain. Like the social media team and the redemption team are not the same team. So the social media people maybe had a post scheduled and they put it out without really contacting maybe the redemption team potentially. And sure, maybe this is a card that you look at and say, well, they should know if it's been redeemed. It's like, well, I would be interested to know how many people could go into their office or go into their job and know what's going on in the environments of other people that they work with. I don't think it's going to be that high, if I'm going to be honest. So that's at least from my opinion, that's where I think that's easily explained. And then also, I think that the parents, because people are saying, why didn't they just consign it? Why do we know how old the kid is? Why do we know? And this was also a tweet that I put out, like I said, but I erased it because I was like, I don't think necessarily this this is helping with the conversation on Twitter. I'll talk about it on the podcast because I can explain it a little bit more. And I'm not confined to a certain amount of characters here to explain my point. The point that I want to make is that the parents can be involved in the process of what Topps has and the marketing, and they can say, hey, we hear he's 11 years old, and here's a picture of his journal. They can easily say that without being like, here's also a picture of the kid. Like, I'm just surprised that people are like, where is the picture of the kid? Where is this picture? It's like, relax. All right. It's not that serious. Sure, it's $1 million card, but it's like, if this was a breaker that pulled it and we didn't see any video, then yeah, that's probably pretty weird. But it's like, if this 11-year-old and his dad or his family members are pulling the cards and they pull the card, it's like they have something in their hand that's worth $1 million. Their first thought process isn't probably, hey, well, let's become, especially, okay, here's the thing. If they are not on social media, they don't have no social media presence, they don't have social media, why would they want to start that just because they pulled the $1 million card? I don't know. That's just my opinion. So maybe I think that's probably what happened. I think also I'm willing to admit that I could be wrong here and say, well, there could be more info that comes out later down the road. There could be more stuff that maybe they're doing other things. Maybe maybe Topps is flying them out to do some sort of interview, and they're going to do interviews soon. So it's like there's information that we are expecting that is it's just like I'm surprised that the reaction has been why is it? I'm surprised that the reaction is not just excitement for this kid that pulled the card and it's probably, now he has whatever 500K because half of it's going to go to taxes. Probably there's going to be, or at least 30 to 45% probably will go towards taxes. So granted, if it sells for $1 million, they have, whatever, 600K. That's still a life changing amount of money for people who didn't. If you don't have 600K, it's life changing. So, granted, I don't know if it turns out that there's more information that comes out, then I'll be incorrect about this opinion, about this take. But I'm just surprised that so many people are like trying to hound down this family, and Ken Golden is tweeting out that he contacted the family and they want to sell it with Fanatics, and I think that's a whole nother conversation maybe for another day. Is like, this is one of the first times we've seen Fanatics come out with a card. They've come out with something, and there's been so much buzz. Like, this is probably the most buzz we've seen around a specific card since maybe the triple auto LeBron, or no, the triple logo man LeBron. So it's like Fanatics makes the card, and then they're the one that packed it. They're the one that is now selling it at auction. Which, granted, again, I don't think Fanatics collects and Fanatics, they have the same name, but I think that they are different entities. So I don't think the path is exactly the way that people expect it to be here. And if more info comes out, I mean, we might cover it. I mean, like I said, there's going to be probably more stuff on the Super Bowl that we're going to cover here in the next couple weeks. But these are just kind of the big stories that happened this past weekend, as we head into a new week here in the sports card industry. Finally, we got some news on the first WWE Tops Now cards that we've seen in quite some time. I was pretty, so I was surprised by some of the numbers, how low they were. And then I guess I was surprised by some of the numbers of how high they were. I don't know. I mean, I was overall, I was surprised that these numbers were not, like, for example, the Rock Roman Reigns cards being in the 16,000. I don't know. I kind of thought that would be in like the higher, closer to six figures realistically, because like it is a dual auto for The Rock and Roman Reigns, which, like, The Rock, obviously one of the biggest wrestlers of all time. Roman Reigns, in this era, is like the Rock of this era, which I think that I know that they're in their story, they're related. I'm not 100% sure if they're actually related in real life or not. That's one of the confusing things about wrestling, I guess. But then some of the numbers that I was a little bit surprised by. So, like, there was a inaugural women's continental championship card that had around 1100. I guess I'm not super surprised by that. The one that I am, maybe, and then the other two women's cards actually were both around pretty much the same, right below 3000. The John Cena relic card, that one was at 8600. The Rhea Ripley 6800, 6800. The CM Punk card was around 4700. Those were the notable ones, but then the one that I think might have more, I don't know if you want to call it repercussions. I don't think repercussions implies that it's a bad thing, but maybe it's just, I'm not sure what other word to use here. But there was a new wrestler that debuted on Monday Night Raw. And the second episode was, his name was Penta, who is like a Mexican luchador wrestler who had been in AEW for quite some time. Was a not really he wasn't a prospect by any means, but this was his first time in WWE. He had some AEW card through Upper Deck, and then I think he had like a Leaf card potentially back in 2021. But his was at 3815, which now that I'm looking at it, that doesn't say that there was going to be any one of ones. Or, I mean, I guess the other ones maybe, because the other ones say look out for autos and relics. So I'm wondering if because I know that they announced the card. I'm wondering if they're going to, I don't know if they're going to they probably will do the one of one if I had to guess. But the thing that is different on that card is that there is no like rookie logo. And that is something where, like, in wrestling, the rookie logo, I feel like is I don't know how they're going to use it. Like, because I feel like the rookie logo could be important for those products. I don't think we're gonna have any rookies necessarily in what's it called in this Topps Chrome product. I know that they tweeted out like an NXT card, which NXT is basically like their developmental brand. And from what I saw on that card, I don't believe there was a rookie logo. I'm actually scrolling back on Topps' Twitter because they've been doing some dual um, promotion of some of the, obviously all of the uh, new stuff. And then there was also a Hasbula card that they announced that's like a UFC. So I don't know if that means 100% that UFC. Yeah, I mean, I guess Topps must have the UFC, which that probably came along with the WWE license. Yeah, okay, so here it is. This NXT card doesn't have like a rookie logo on it. So I don't know if like there are going to be rookie logos maybe on these cards, I guess. Like in WWE, it's so like wrestlers that are making their debut are not necessarily rookies. Like there are tons of wrestlers who come over from AEW or they come over from like New Japan. Like there are wrestlers that are not rookies that come over to WWE and they are sure rookies to the WWE. So I don't know if like there are I know I've seen on some UFC cards they've had the rookie logo. So I just am I'm sitting here wondering if there are going to be like rookies in this product and how Topps is going to market the product without being able to market like the big rookie, really. And I think based like because Penta would have been a rookie, WWE rookie. So I guess that means that there maybe won't be WWE rookie cards in these products, which I like I said, I'll be interested to see how they decide to market the products without being able to market like a big rookie. And also, I thought the WWE market, I guess, for sports cards was a little bit larger, but like based on those numbers, it's I expected I expected a lot of these cards to be in the high five figures and low six figures, and none of them even hit the six figures. Like none of them even were close. So I don't know if that's maybe a if that's on myself to like now I just need to re-gauge the popularity of the market potentially because I thought that there could be a lot of crossover between WWE wrestling, or not even just WWE, just wrestling in general and sports cards because of how many wrestling fans there are. And I have definitely found myself personally going through ups and downs with wrestling. Like these past year or so, I've been probably since like 2 years ago, I've been following it pretty closely. Like, not particularly watching any of the live episodes, but like following along. Like, there are people that post reactions and they post clips on TikTok. So there's there is that way to follow, which I think is like it's an interesting way to it's an interesting thing that I think is a phenomenon in this new social media age is like the ability to follow along with shows or with things, but not actually watch the thing. And again, this may be I don't know if this is a personal experience necessarily or if anybody else does this. Like this has happened with shows too, where like there will just be clips and clips and clips of a show, and I'm like, okay, fine, I'll watch the show. I mean, it happened with Shameless a couple years ago, and this is, I mean, I'm going off of the topic a little bit here, but I'm just talking about how maybe maybe the crossover just isn't as large as I expected. That's kind of my main point here, because if you had the opportunity to get a one of one, like a 1 in 8,000 chance to get a one of one Cena, like that's a pretty decent chance. I mean, that's a better shot to get a one of one relic card than it would be out of any pack, probably. I mean, I can't imagine even out of this Topps Chrome. And this also honestly could be the reason why they didn't come out with these numbers like right away, because maybe even tops thought they were low, because this was something that I had been checking up on like every single day, like waiting for the numbers to come out. And now that they came out, they're not really impressive at all. Like, I wasn't expecting 500,000 like some of the, the Otani or the triple auto LeBron, Curry, Durant, but like I was expecting these to be in the like, I don't know, maybe 50, 60, 70,000. And even the card that, or at least the Rock Roman Reigns card, I did think for sure, but even that card only got 16,000. So I don't know. I think for myself, it's maybe just a moment that I need to think about, like, is the market as large as I thought it was going to be? And I don't think, and I guess maybe not, because also like I was writing articles for Sports Illustrated, and sometimes I'll get like retweets and replies on some of my articles, but I didn't get any really on those. So I don't know. I mean, it's something where I thought I knew how a market was, and maybe it's not as big as I thought. And maybe that could be said for maybe a lot of things potentially, like because I find myself interested in markets that are not very big, but like I know that they're not very big. Like I'm interested in Call of Duty cards and like uh dart cards and like all of these things. And I know that there aren't a lot of people who are also interested in those things, but this was one that I thought that there would be way more people interested in to get a chance at one of these one of ones. But obviously, or at least just this first run just was not as popular as I was sort of expecting. On Monday's episode, I talked a little bit about the Super Bowl matchup, and on today's episode, I'm going to talk a little bit about the teams and players that didn't make the game. Now Josh Allen in that 2018 Prison Product, again, I've said it on a billion different episodes that it's the best modern football product we have right now, or that we've seen in quite some time, based on timing, based on how production, based on the players. And I think unfortunately we may be going through another era with like where we went through with the Patriots, where Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs, like they're, I feel like they can't. I don't know. Something catastrophic is going to have to happen. Really, like really, a injury is what took Brady out for a little bit, for a couple years, and he still made Super Bowl. So I mean, I don't think Patrick Mahomes doesn't play in any Super Bowls going forward. But I think it's hard to. I think it's very hard to say that any other team other than the Chiefs has a chance to make it to the Super Bowl. So I don't think that, for example, Josh Allen or Lamar Jackson and any of the other AFC quarterbacks, like I just don't see like a Super Bowl would help them. Yeah, obviously. But I just don't know if that's in the cards. Like Lamar Jackson's MVP. I mean, Josh Allen hopefully is going to win MVP this year. I think Lamar Jackson's numbers might have been a little bit better potentially, so I don't know which way this is going to go. I mean, I think Josh Allen was definitely, yeah. Josh Allen, let's just put it this way. Josh Allen didn't have Derrick Henry on his team. The best, maybe second or third best running back in the league. So I think I think when you have Derrick Henry on your team, that opens up your offense a little bit to um they teams just have to put more defensive ends and linebackers on the field, so it opens up the field a little bit more for Lamar Jackson to go out there and make plays with his feet. I think Josh Allen's team is obviously good. They made it to the AFC Championship game. They were the number 2 seed in the AFC. Um but I don't know. I mean, you could argue that James Cook is still very good. They still have some good players, but I don't know. I just think Josh Allen was more impactful for his team than Lamar Jackson was this year. So I don't know if a Super Bowl could really affect, or I don't know. It's not that it wouldn't affect, it will affect. I just can't predict that either of those two players will get to the Super Bowl, as long as like Patrick Mahomes doesn't have some sort of like season-ending injury. I think there may be an era here where, like, when Travis Kelsey potentially retires, that maybe they could go through a little bit of turmoil on the Chiefs. But also, it's like I didn't realize this, that I guess the pick that the Chiefs drafted Patrick Mahomes for or with was traded to them from the Bills. And Xavier Worthy, also another player that they traded the pick. That didn't make any sense to me, and I still doesn't make any sense. Like, why, if the Bills, like, maybe they said they looked at what happened in that draft and they said we're not going to help a team in the AFC get any better, even if it hypothetically could help our team. I don't know, but so the card prices for like Josh Allen, and I mean players on the Bills, like Josh Allen's really one of the only players I think you could look at potentially trying to buy. James Cook, Um, I just don't really see. And then Shakir, I think they're both from the 2022 draft class. I do think that if you're looking to buy some products for football, the 2022 products are actually decent. They have, it's not super quarterback heavy. It has a decent amount of like good position players. You got like Drake London in that draft class. It's a pretty solid draft class. It does have some decent quarterbacks. I mean, Desmond Ritter, I mean, he could potentially turn into something eventually, but I don't really know. I'm not going to sit here and try and predict Desmond Ritter, who really has not done much in the NFL realistically. But 2022 might be a decent year to buy if you're looking for football products, past football products. 2018 is, I would direct people towards that, but with that one, you're paying the premium because of the product and because of the year and because of all the talent that comes out of that year. Now, I'm going to flip over to the Commanders here with Jaden Daniels, and I look at it from two sides. I look at it on one side and say it would be great for the sports card industry as a whole. It would be great short term, I think, for people who are selling football products, this year's football products with Jaden Daniels in it for these next couple weeks. That would be great if we had him in there. But on the other hand, I'm like, I don't think it would be, I don't think it's correct to look at Jaden Daniels cards and say he's the guy that you definitely want to go out and get. I don't know if you could say the Commanders were lucky this year. They were good. They have great players, Brian Robinson Jr. They've got Terry McLaurin. They had Zach Ertz, obviously. Defense is okay, so it's going to be interesting to see what they do this next upcoming year. I mean, Jaden Daniel. I don't know if I might have been calling him Jalen Daniels. Jaden Daniels. So on one hand, it would have been great for the overall pricing of the industry, I think, but I don't necessarily think that it would have been great for like if you wanted to buy Jaden Daniels cards, and even maybe 2024 product in general. It would have gone up in price, and I think that would be good for people that have the product. It would be bad for people who want the product. That would mean it would be good for breakers. It would be good for, well, that's breakers and maybe hobby shops and people who have it that are selling it secondary. And I don't know. I mean, unfortunately, Joe Burrow may be an example of this early on in his career, making it this far, and like he made it to the Super Bowl like close to his rookie year, I believe. So I don't know if that's something that could happen with the Commanders here. Like I don't know if it's going to be their only shot really to make it this far. I mean, if you're a Commanders fan, they hadn't been in this game in like 50 years or 30. I forgot the exact number. No, I think it was 50 years they hadn't been in the NFC Championship game. So I don't know. I think on one hand, it's good that Jaden Daniels is not playing in the Super Bowl because I think it would have helped people who have the product who are trying to sell it, but it would have hurt collectors who are trying to buy product because it would have just gone up because you would have had Jaden Daniels playing in the Super Bowl, which is more. Probably would have affected those prices, but I still think the Super Bowl matchup there is still a little bit more analysis to do, I guess. Like, I don't know. I mean, I just think that like Barkley could be a potential player that like could be having one of the best running back seasons of all time. So I would be nervous buying those cards. But even Jaden Daniels, because this is the thing also that I saw. Like the thing happened that we know happens every single time. The best rookie from the best product sells for thousands of dollars, and then it drops down to a couple $100. And where does that card land? The PSA 10 of the Daniels Prism, probably around somewhere like maybe a Jalen Hurts' price, or I don't know, even Josh Allen, for example. His cards are only $200-300 for a PSA 10 Prism, which I think is a decent decent value. But if you're looking for the high end of the high end, obviously you're not gonna be looking at Prism. And from Kyler Murray to Joe Burrow, those years there was a significant jump. So I would say or I don't know, maybe even Jaden Daniels would be closer to Joe Burrow's prices potentially, because there's going to be so many of them that I think it's hard to really replicate the pricing and to really make any type of indication where the pricing could go with that card. But I don't know. If you have the card, I would sell it. I mean, sure, you're selling it probably a little bit higher than it should go for, but I think overall you're looking at probably one of the only opportunities that you're going to be able to sell that card for the price that those cards are selling for right now. Like, I don't know if those cards ever get back up to these prices, similar to what happened to the market as a whole in 2020, 2021. But I think overall, both teams, unfortunately, would have been would have been a more entertaining, more fun matchup for the Commanders and the Bills. So, maybe I don't know. Hopefully, in the future, we see one of those teams make it. But unfortunately, in this year's Super Bowl, it's the matchup that everyone is dreading. I think for the most part, we've covered a lot of the topics that we're going to go over today. I think there are just some updates that we're going to go over that I think are going to be important. One new-ish topic, one that is one that in theory, I'm glad that we're going to be seeing maybe an end to it. Or maybe we're not. So I'll get into that one first. So Paul Skeens, I know everyone is probably sick of hearing about Paul Skeens. Everyone in the sports card world, I think it's a very viral story. Probably one of the most viral stories we've ever seen in the industry, if I'm going to be completely honest. Like, the amount of buzz around this Paul Skeens card is pretty astronomical, if I'm going to be completely honest. And he was on Late Night with Seth Meyers last night, and he said he was super excited that an 11-year-old pulled a card, and then he said he was asked like what would have been worst case scenario, which is like a weird question. This seemed like a weird, I don't know. This seemed like a weird question to me. I'm not sure why Paul Skeens was asked this question, but he's like, what would have been worst case scenario? And he said, if a 50-year-old collector had pulled the card, which, like, dude, read the room a little bit. Like, a 50-year-old collector is like, that is like like if you're talking about the demographic in sports cards, that's like what the demographic is like 35 to 50. Like, sure, there's probably younger kids and younger people who are into cards, but like the main demographic right now is probably like 35 to 50. So, like, dude, read the room a little bit. Like, that seemed like a weird question and definitely a weird answer. Like, I don't know what's the worst case scenario. Like, I don't know. Seemed a little bit of a silly question there. And I don't know if we've really seen a pitching prospect like Paul Skeens, or no, not a pitching prospect, but wait, sorry. Yes, pitching prospect, a prospect that is a pitcher that has been this exciting since maybe Steven Strasburg. So we'll see where this card ends up selling for. I think it's going to be on Fanatics Collects. I think that's kind of, we've all heard that. So that's the end of the update right there. He was on Late Night. I mean, I don't know I don't know how much of this is like publicity for Topps and how much of it is like publicity maybe for him in general. Like, I don't really know. I mean, I know that he was being interviewed about like if he's thought about signing with the Pittsburgh Pirates, and he was just like, yeah, no, I haven't really thought about it. It's like, yeah, well, that makes sense because Pittsburgh has not, other than like McCutchen, like I don't really know of any superstar prospects that have come through Pittsburgh that have like stayed there. I don't know. And McCutchen came back, obviously. But so then there was an interesting story that this again, so a story that doesn't really make much sense to me, if I'm going to be completely honest. Like, Derrick Rose signed an exclusive deal with Panini. That just doesn't, like, who cares? And it seems maybe a little bit rude, but it seems like it just doesn't, again, it just doesn't make, like, what do we do? Like, what is Panini doing? Like, of all the things that Panini could do, they're out there signing Derrick Rose, who, granted, it's going to be he's going to get his number retired next year by the Bulls. And I think in a couple of years, in 3, 4, 5 years, I think he retired before this past season or this season, he'll probably be a Hall of Famer. I think if you look at all the players who are in the Hall of Fame, MVPs, I'd say 100%. I think you got to imagine 100% of the MVPs are probably in the Hall of Fame, and especially the Basketball Hall of Fame. They let in, there's like a lot of people in the Basketball Hall of Fame. So I would imagine Derrick Rose probably gets in, but yeah, he signs an exclusive with Panini, and like, I don't know, maybe it'll be cool. Maybe there'll be some cool stuff, but it's like it just feels so random, and it's like who I don't know. I'm not sure what Panini's really like thinking here or why they're doing that. It just sort of seems like a bit of a I don't know a waste of time if I'm going to be completely honest. The one of one Shohei Otani 50 50 ball card that is actually up for sale. That is going to be that's up for sale through Heritage. It's already at or it's set the estimate is set at 600,000 through Heritage. I don't know if there's a I was looking at the listing. I didn't see like a reserve on there. But I wouldn't, 600K, that sounds about right. I think it is a PSA 10, which is weird that there's no auto grade on this card. I don't know, maybe I don't know. It's just weird that there's no auto grade on the card. But yeah, PSA 10, one of one Otani 50 50 home run card up for auction. We knew that that was going to happen because we knew the card had been redeemed and had been graded, and now it's going to be going through Heritage. So 600,000 sounds about right. The other Otani story is that the one of one from Topps Dynasty Black that had the logo from the pants that he wore during the 50 50 game that has been redeemed. So that was, I guess it was a redemption in Topps Dynasty, which makes sense because it was a very sudden addition. Like it was a card that was added like right at the end of the season, if I had to guess. Which I'm wondering again. I think the process has become much faster for the like the design to the production of a card, and then the production put into a pack and all of these things. The process has probably gotten a lot quicker. I mean, with technology, it would make sense that that would be a lot quicker there. So that card has been redeemed, and it's actually also going up for auction through Heritage as well. So Heritage is going to have two pretty big cards. I mean, we'll cover the that other Otani card still has like a month left. It's probably I think it's like the middle of February or the towards the end of February because February is like 29 days. So I think it said there was 24 days left uh, on that auction, and then it looks like this other one of one is also going to be sold through Heritage as well. So yeah, I mean those are for the most part those are kind of some updates on those stories, four stories that I don't know. It all seem to have positive and negative effects, I think, on the hobby. I think the Derrick Rose story is, again, I don't know. It's really pretty odd. Like, I've seen some reactions of people who are not in the sports card world, but do that like sports cards and really just ripping Panini for, I don't know. It makes sense that they're trying to make the money here, but it really just seems like they're kind of mailing it in a little bit and just saying, we're not going to make the products any better. We're just going to add to the products, and we're going to do the thing. Like, because here's the thing with what Panini is doing. I feel like collectors have over the years, and maybe this could be the collection of people who just I follow, all do not like the crazy addition of all the parallels in these products. So, like, Panini is on one hand, I think that they had done a good job of listening to collectors and kind of posting stuff on their Instagram and engaging in the community. But it feels like over the past year or so, they really have just been, we're not going to listen. We're just going to do what we want. We're going to come out with this product. And I think, unfortunately, the thing is, this is just going to lead to a lot of products sitting on shelves because it's already been sold. That's the thing with Panini too, and Topps as well. And this is unfortunately with both companies, but the product gets sold before it's made. And now that it's made, the boxes are out. And then once the boxes start to get open, they're all being distributed. So it's like, we know that a lot of this product is probably going to be sitting around. I don't know how much product, like, there probably will be one day where we see like pictures of warehouses filled with like random baseball cards the way that we did in the junk wax era. I wouldn't be surprised if we see something similar with a lot of these Tops product, or excuse me, Tops on the mind, Tops products too, but more Panini, in my opinion, is Panini. I don't want to say they're doing a disservice to the hobby, but it's like they're really not leaving the hobby on a good note, in my opinion. Like and I don't know if they're necessarily doing it on purpose. Like, on one hand, yeah, sure, they kind of got screwed by Tops and by a lot of the leagues, and WWE, for example, like that left the partnership early to go for Tops. Like, they kind of got screwed over. But it's like the problem with what they are deciding to do is that they're not screwing over the people who screwed over them. They're screwing over maybe collectors potentially, because if they're just going to come out with these products and not really put the care and not really put as much effort into any of them, and just turn on the printer and turn on the parallel printer and all of these things, like they're just, and then I don't know, signing D Rose, like, again, it just seems like they're wasting a lot of time here. And I don't know, this may be a whole nother conversation for another day, but it's probably a conversation we've had on this podcast tons of times. But I don't know. Hopefully, maybe Derrick Rose. Like, again, it's also like they're losing the basketball license. Like, why are you signing a basketball player? Like, sure, maybe he's signing to a memorabilia deal, and then memorabilia is going to be sold. Derrick Rose memorabilia will be sold through Panini. But it's like you're not gonna you're not going to be making basketball cards. So, like, what are you doing? Like, why are you signing? And I'm getting a little riled up on that point. It's just like it just doesn't make any sense to me, and it's like all it's doing is really just adding. They're not adding any value to a lot of their cards. They're really just all they're doing is taking away value per card. Like, hypothetically, let's say a rookie card, like, and this is a really kind of out there hypothetical, I think. Not saying any specific player, but let's say a specific card, because of the print run and because of how many cards there were. Let's just say any given rookie was worth $5 a couple years ago. They're printing so much of this product that all of these cards are now worth dollars. Like, they're a dollar or two, and it's like they've already sold the product again, which that's the thing that kind of annoys me a little bit. They've already sold the product to the distributors and to the people who are going to then be selling the product to customers. And it's like the customers are the ones that aren't going to be buying the products, not the distributors, because in order to get the product, there's the companies that are buying from Panini directly. Panini then has to sell them other products, so that way they aren't just selling, Prism basketball or Prism football. They have to sell these other products. And even with Prism football and basketball, it's like they're not coming out with products that are revolutionary here. So it's like, I don't know. On one hand, I'm sort of skeptical on what Tops is going to do with these licenses, but on the other hand, I'm just like, let's just get this over with. Like, honestly, like, let's just get this switched over here already, because, like, really, we're at this point, I feel like more damage is being done, and I don't know if damage is like as drastic a word as I want to use, but it feels like there's more damage being done to the hobby than good being done to the hobby by, like, the increase of the print run and the decisions that the company is making overall. To start the show here, I'm going to address sort of the what was going on social media today with, unfortunately, with Backyard Breaks. One of the guys on their break said some, like, crazy stuff about, like, a kid, and they said that person's taking a break from being on the stream. And I mean, clearly whatnot, it probably ends up having to ban them, if I had to guess. At this point, they have not come out with a statement or anything, but I mean, they're one of the biggest breakers, and I don't know. They have a bit of a checkered history. I would say they probably are one of the more well-known breakers in the industry, and not necessarily for good reasons. Like, they sure have pulled some crazy cards, but they've also had some, like, weird different controversies. So, I don't know. I mean, I felt like addressing it just really quickly and just saying we still are waiting on info on from Whatnot and what exactly is going to happen here. But I think it's a good reminder that if you own a business within the hobby, that you are reliant on sort of other companies. You're reliant on other companies allowing you to run your business through their business, which is it's not necessarily attached to the backyard break stuff, but it's like, you know, other businesses, eBay, for example, they just made another change that's probably will affect sports cards for sure. That like payments are going to be on hold until items are delivered, which I don't know what that means for like if packages get lost. Like, does just nobody get the money? Do the people get the money back? I don't know exactly how that works. I don't know where that ends up happening, but it's like that's sort of a big change here, like for eBay and you know whatnot has their they have their rules and they have their terms of service and based on there's a whole video so it's not hearsay. There's a video of what was said, and based on whatnot's terms of service they have broken whatnot's terms of service. So you'd have to imagine that there probably will be some sort of repercussions here. There has to be. I don't know. And it's again, I don't think they work, from what I've seen, I don't think they work directly with Panini or Topps to get cards. I think they work through some sort of secondary network to get their breaks. Um, but I don't know. I hope that this is a lesson for breakers that I mean, this is insane. It's crazy. It's absolutely an insane thing to say. Like I can't. It's really just not even worth getting into as just like all you have to do is go to Twitter to find the video of what the person said, and it's just like insane. So if Whatnot has to do something, and I know that in the past I've been a little bit critical of them, saying that like we've seen breakers open up packs early, and again, sometimes these controversies happen on Whatnot, and then they kind of go by the wayside pretty quickly. Like the Prism football that people were opening up early, I don't really know what happened after the fact. Like this, because the story didn't really continue other than that part of the story. So I don't know. That's kind of the beginning part of the episode here. So the other stuff that I want to talk about is that in the past week or so, it seems that both one of one autographs from Jack Corleone have been pulled out of Bowman and Bowman Sapphire. So the Bowman Superfractor one of one autograph and the pink or no, oh, so I say Sapphire, the Bowman Superfractor one of one autograph and the the pink one of one that comes out of Bowman Sapphire has also been pulled from that product. And I think whenever you see big cards like that pulled, and it's maybe similar to the Topps Chrome, people talk about Topps Chrome with the Paul Skeens, I guess. People talk about the box prices plummeting. And I think on one hand, I think that probably does happen a little bit, but on the other hand, and I just don't think that there's much proof like from a and I guess I don't even know really how you would monitor that, because it's like everybody sells their boxes differently. Everybody sells their hobby boxes at different prices, or their jumbo boxes at different prices. So like, yeah, sure, it's probably going to affect the price of certain boxes a little bit, but I also think that like unfortunately what ends up happening is that in this market, I think, at least from what I've seen, is that the box prices do not affect how if people are buying them or not. And I think the really unfortunate thing is with Topps and Panini as well, which I sort of have another Panini topic that I want to talk about. But box prices do not really affect the demand for the cards. I think we are in an era in the market where the demand for cards is still at an all-time high, and breaks are still at an all-time high, and buying boxes directly from Panini and directly from Topps is still at an all-time high. And I mean, Topps is not going to sell their boxes for any cheaper. It's really, like I said, I think I talked about this earlier this week. It's like really the only people that are going to be affected are the people who bought the boxes directly from distributors and who are at hobby shops, or if they have a business, that's a secondary market. It's like the secondary market and the business aspect of sports cards is always changing. So if you're somebody who's in this market, and that's not, I mean, that's sort of the thing. If you're a new person, which if you're listening to this podcast, you're probably not necessarily new to the hobby, but like if you're new and that's not how you really want to run your business, like if you just want to try and run your business and run it and kind of keep it even keel, like straight going ahead, that's just not what's going to happen. That's just not how things work in this industry. So, are the box prices going to be affected? Yeah, probably. But also, I think the demand is still so high that the the demand is not going to drop the box prices enough to be a significant drop in price. The other piece that I want to talk about, probably the last topic, will be somebody compiled a bunch of Prism football grading percentages, and the 2024 Prism football is the lowest gem percentage since Prism has come out. And it's like a 20 or 30% drop. Like I think it was around 50% PSA 10s for 2023 Prism. And from what I saw, it was around like 25 to 30% for PSA 10s for 2024 Prism. And I don't know exactly what that could be. I have a feeling that it could be I have a feeling that it could just be that everybody is grading every single card now because grading prices have gotten significantly lower. So, like, people are less careful about what cards they're sending in because rather than combing through a bunch of different cards, they're just sending every card they have and saying, well, here's that. I think also there could be a Panini issue with their QCing, which they're not QCing every single set of cards, but like the amount that these cards are being produced is at a point where they can't the cards that they potentially would throw out hypothetically are they're just non-existent really. Like I think that's probably what it is. I also think maybe PSA is potentially just maybe they're grading a little bit harder, I which I think is good. I have said in the past that I thought that they should make a cutoff date of a specific year or a specific date in a year and saying, if you send in cards of products after this certain date, they're going to be graded at um, a different level of scrutiny. Because I just think that grading on one hand, yeah, it's a double edged sword. I think because everybody wants their cards to come back at PSA 10 when they get their cards graded, but then they also want the highest amount of value for their PSA 10. So it's like those two things are kind of on the opposite side of the spectrum when it comes to getting cards graded and then the price of those cards. Because if you want all of your cards to get PSA 10s, everybody else also wants all their cards to be PSA 10s, but then they also want the rarity of a PSA 10. Like we're seeing the one of the Jane Daniels cards. Like I think I might have talked about this. I forget if I did on the show. Like one of the Jane Daniels cards sold for like $3,000 or $2,000 or something, and now it's down to like $600 or $700. It's like the thing that always happens keeps happening. And so I don't know. I'm not necessarily surprised by that thing with the Jane Daniels Prism card. Am I surprised by the lower level of PSA 10s by in the Prism? I don't know. I mean, I think also like the design, maybe that's where it's built. Like the design of it, maybe it's not a design that's what am I trying to say? The design of the card is maybe not put in a good position to get high grades potentially. Like maybe the borders aren't like because in the past, PSA has a pretty broad spectrum of like where they grade for like the borders of cards. So like maybe it's just more off-centered. Maybe there's more scratches on the card. Maybe there could be any number of things that is the reason why we're seeing such a drop in the PSA 10s for this year's Prism football. Um, but overall, again, I would like for PSA to say, okay, starting in 2025, any product after this we're going to be grading these cards as a different scale. There's just going to be a more higher level of scrutiny, which I don't even really think is that unrealistic to ask because it's not like, because for example, the Victor Wembanyama card that got graded so many times. Like I graded like 100,000 times probably. Like I forget what the exact. Like I know we talked about that around Christmas time or when those numbers were coming out. But like it's not like there are all these cards graded and none of them are coming back PSA 10s. Like the Upper Deck Griffey rookie there are a ton of those graded, but there aren't very many that are PSA 10. So it's like, is that card harder to grade, or did PSA grade it harder for whatever reason? I don't really know. And I think that's maybe what I would like to see from some or not from companies, but like from products nowadays. Just a little bit difference in grading, just to make things maybe more rare or better for the industry, I suppose.